Morning, you lovely people. Hope you're well. We are back again with the Football's 12th Man and, of course, the morning transfer show, something that we're going to be bringing to you Monday to Friday. The last of this week's morning transfer shows. It's actually been a busy week, you know what I mean? I can't actually believe that we've got through what we've got through, because when you look at it as a whole, you would probably say that it's quite quiet in the transfer window. But there is always something to talk about. There is always rumours. There's always heavy rumours. There's always loosely linked rumours. And we're going to talk through it all this morning. Good morning to every single one of you. Please make sure you do me a favour, which is absolutely free to do. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let's try and get our community up to 30k very quickly. And let's make sure that we get us up to easily 100 likes to start with. By the end of the show, I would love to see up to 200 to 300. Please make sure that you do that, because it does support the channel massively. Big up to all of you that are joining me live and, of course, on the catch-up. Big up to James. Big up to Greeny Man. Big up to Tony. Big up to Niffin. Big up to Cedric. Big up to Matt. Big up to Ace. Big up to Helsinki. Big up to Adam Lee. Big up to Davey. And, of course, big up to everybody else that hasn't said hello in the chat, but, of course, are here. Absolute legends. I love to see the numbers growing every morning. It's great to see so many of you here nice and early. And apologies for those that are missing this, that are at work. Hopefully you can see this on catch-up. I like to give everybody a bit of an understanding of what's happening in the world of transfers. And that's exactly what this show is about. We will be back later on. There will be an afternoon show. There will be an evening show tonight as well, talking all things transfers with a panel. I'm going to try and bring that to you as much as I can and as often as I can throughout the week. So big up to all of you. Let's get towards the news, shall we? There is some news that I'm going to start, which is actually not about transfers, but I do think it is definitely the first couple of stories anyway aren't about transfers. But of course are about the news. We are going to start with the Euros, and England are back this weekend. You will be able to watch England versus Switzerland. And there are strong rumours that Gareth Southgate is heavily rotating. Now, I don't know if he's heavily rotating or he's changing a system. I think it's probably going to be the latter. But I'm actually here for it. I can't watch any more of that dross. I cannot be dealing with watching Gareth Southgate with that formation and with players forced into the wrong positions. For me, it needs to change. And I actually believe that a three at the back might actually do some good, because what it might do is force some of the players that I believe deserve a start into the first team. Now, it might not start them all. It might not force every single one of them. But certainly with a three at the back, we're able to change the balance of the team and look a little bit more free-flowing going forward, because that's the only thing I think that we are clearly missing. Defensively, I've not been too, bad with it. But when I look at the situation in the formation at England, it just has not worked under Gareth Southgate. And I kind of believe that if we were to change the system and go with a three at the back, that we'd have to look at maybe changing the personnel a little bit. And I would quite like it to look a little bit something like this. Now, this is something that I would put together on the tactics board, something that I would like to see England go with. And I don't know if this will be the team. This is the team that I think would be really good and suited to England if we were to change things. Now, obviously, Pickford's going to remain in goal. With Mark Guehi being suspended, it looks like Konza will probably be the guy that does deputise and come in. And you've got Stones and then Walker, who will drop into that back line. Now, Walker's got the pace to have recovery pace. And I honestly believe that there's an opportunity for him to go in with a three at the back. He has played there for England before. Now, the interesting part with Rice and Bellingham staying in midfield is that you can bring Saka and Trent Alexander-Arnold into the wing-back role, which I think is absolutely a must, particularly for Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think Gary Neville said it was illegal that Trent Alexander-Arnold has not played yet for England in his natural position, and I actually agree. I think if you're not going to play him in midfield, you put him at right back or right wing back. And I do think that having Walker behind him and Stones behind him is a good choice. I think it could work. Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best in that position. There is nobody better than him. I think going forward, he's generational. I think his ability on the ball, his technique, his passing range, his free kicks, his set pieces, his crosses just have to be there for England, particularly with this front three. Now, this front three might not change. Some people might want Anthony Gordon or Palmer into this side. You know what? It's debatable. And I would hear that 100%. But Foden needs to be in this number 10. 100%. I can't have Foden on the left. It's been completely and utterly wasted. And I think Saka can give us something that we haven't had over that left-hand side, which is some width and some overlap. Haven't got that with Kieran Trippier. We haven't got that with Foden. Both of them want to cut inside on their right foot. I think Saka could do some damage on that left-hand side. I really do. We've seen it for Arsenal. We have seen it for England in glimpses. And then the other week when he played there, I thought, you know what? You've just given us so much more balance already. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a gooner. I genuinely believe that. And I think Ivan Toney needs to start in this side now. I really do. I think what he did was cause absolute menace and havoc. And I understand that it might have been because he's an impact sub and it might change stuff. But I think starting him alongside Kane, I think would be really good because you've got two finishers and two players that can hold it up. You've actually got one player that is a killer in the box, one player who can cause havoc, and then you can switch it around and have one player who causes havoc and the other one who still is a killer in the box in Ivan Toney. So I think this could work. Now, if you didn't want to see Ivan Toney up there, you could, of course, play two behind. You could put Foden and Palmer behind Kane, but really that might upset the balance a little bit more. I think you've got to let Foden do his thing there. So that's what I would do if I was the England manager. Now, Gareth Southgate, he may have other plans. He may not want anything to do with this formation. He may not want anything to do with these players that I've selected, but that is what I would like to see happen. I would be more than happy to see something like that. That would be something that I would be quite excited by and interested by to see if that could be happening. But of course, I'm not the England manager, people, so it probably won't happen. I'm a big fan of some of the players that I've mentioned there as well, and I think we absolutely must get Trent into this side, and I think that is the best way to do it by changing things up slightly. And I don't think there's anybody other than maybe Palmer and Foden Palmer and Gordon that are missing out. And let's be real, they've missed out anyway. So if you're not going to be able to play them and have the trust of playing them, bring them on from the bench. You can use them in a couple of different ways. So I think that would be the best way forward for England. But enough of that. While we're on managers, let's talk about this guy. He has signed a new extension. Now, a lot of rival fans are very happy about this. And I must say that I am not a huge fan of Eric Ten Hag. The reason I'm not a huge fan of Eric Ten Hag is because in the 2 years he's been a manager of Manchester United, I don't see a style of play. I don't believe that the players he's brought in have improved Manchester United. And I think that just makes things even more confusing because these players he brought in were players he selected that he's worked with before, whether it be Onana in goal, whether it be Malacia at left back, whether it be Lisandro Martinez, whether it be the likes of Anthony, or if it likes to be players he's pointed the finger at to say bring him in like Amrabat and Højlund. They haven't really done it at Manchester United. So for me, what he's done also on top of that is upset the apple cart with unsettling the likes of Sancho, looking at potential replacements for Rashford. It is not a very good start for Eric Ten Hag at Manchester United. But let's be real. Let's be real. He has won 2 trophies. And that's what football is all about. Now, what does this mean for Eric Ten Hag at Manchester United? Well, what it might mean is that some players might get settled. And I, of course, mentioned Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. Now, these are 2 players that there will be a lot of interest in, I think. PSG are rumoured to be interested in Marcus Rashford. There was rumours that we spoke about a couple of days ago suggesting that Arsenal might be interested in Marcus Rashford, and that Arteta held early talks in May about a potential move or switch to the Emirates. That's gone very, very quiet. I don't know how much truth was in that. But Jadon Sancho, the rumour is that he will be offered to Premier League clubs for around the £40 million mark. Now, that is a very, very good piece of business for someone. The age of 24, who's clearly got potential, who's played and broke through into the Manchester City side with the likes of Phil Foden and other players that have gone on to do very well at other clubs, hasn't managed to settle in at Manchester United. But when you watch him in a Dortmund shirt, there is potential there. Now, some people might think that's because he's suited to the German league, but I actually do think there's a baller there. And I would rather, and I've said this before, if Arsenal were to sniff around either of those players, 100%, I would say that I would want Sancho over Rashford. There is a mentality issue with Marcus Rashford. I don't know what else I can say about it. There's something about the transfer I would not like. Now, people that think Mikel Arteta might be able to get the best out of Marcus Rashford, believe it or not, he could probably get the best out of Jadon Sancho if he can get the best out of Marcus Rashford. And Jadon Sancho can play both wings. Rashford can't really. Rashford can't really play up top or wide right, but he can play on the left. Jadon Sancho can switch both sides. And I don't love Jadon Sancho. There's players I'd want ahead of Jadon Sancho. But if the 2 were offered to me and I had to take one, it would be Jadon Sancho that I went with. So watch this space on that one, because that could be quite interesting. I do think there's definitely a number of, a number of options, of course, for both of these clubs. I don't think that either of them, however, are set 100% on moves. The other player that, of course, definitely, or a couple of players at Manchester United that I think will be definitely waving goodbye. One of them is, of course, Mason Greenwood, who at the moment is um, being linked with a move to Italy. Marseille apparently are confident, however, of outbidding Lazio, who are favourites in Italy, to sign him. And around about 17 million is being rumoured for the 22-year-old. Now, this is a player with an unbelievable amount of potential, but has a lot of off-the-field problems, which I won't go into the politics of. But actually, when you look at 17 million pounds for him, that's probably nowhere near enough. However, who's going to want Mason Greenwood? Is anybody going to actually want to take this guy? Because he's going to be, what's the word? It's going to be raised eyebrows, I suppose, is the word to use when you talk about Mason Greenwood and what he potentially could be up to. When you look at the politics of the situation, which, as I say, I won't go into, not many people are going to want to go near it. But he's 22, he's highly rated, definitely got potential. When he burst onto the scene at Man United, I thought, wow, this kid's going to be superb. And then all the off the field stuff happened and ruined his career, to be fair, which is now looking like he's going to go to France or to Italy. The other player linked with a move away from Manchester United is this guy, Scott McTominay, who apparently Fulham are very interested in signing. Now, I don't know how much this will cost. And if I'm honest with you, I don't think Manchester United will want to part ways of anything minimal. But I do kind of feel like Scott McTominay's time at Manchester United might have come to an end. At 27 years old, you'd like to think he's getting first-team football. He's not doing that. And, of course, Fulham have just sold Paulinho to Bayern Munich, for which I believe was around about £40 million. Now, this would be a good signing for Fulham. I think he's actually a good player. I don't think he's one of those players I look at and go, wow. However, I think he comes and does a job. And if Manchester United want to keep a squad, I don't really know that they need to be getting rid of players like this, because he'll come in and do a job with 110%. And when he does score goals for Manchester United, you can sit there and go, do you know what? They're important goals. They're goals that have won them games. They're goals that have got last-minute goals. And I think, to be fair, Scott McTominay is a player that I think will do a job in a squad for Manchester United. But, of course, if he wants to go get first-team football at Fulham, then it won't be such a bad move. So watch this space on the Scott McTominay transfer for sure. Let's talk about some exciting news if you're a Gooner, because it looks like Ricardo Calafiori is choosing Arsenal. It looks like the personal terms may have been agreed. We just have to now agree a fee. It's rumoured that a bid went in yesterday and was rejected for around about 37 million. It's looking like we might have to go up to past 40 million to get this player in. Now, I don't know if you saw last night's show, but it is well worth a watch. We're going to clip it up today for you because it was an incredible statement from, of course, a Spurs fan, Henry Wright, who has said that watching this guy gives him Paolo Maldini vibes. Now, let's just calm down a little bit. I don't think this guy's going to be anywhere near Paolo Maldini, who I believe is one of the, if not the best fullback/centre-backs that I've ever seen in my lifetime. But I am excited by this signing because everybody is talking about him. Now, I'm a huge fan of Calafiori from what I've seen on YouTube, but I've done that before and been disappointed. I like his ball carrying. I like the fact that he can see a pass. I like the fact that he can spray a pass, but also look at a long pass. I like the fact that he can get stuck in. And I also like the fact that he's versatile and can drift inside. I think a left back is probably where he's going to be playing for Arsenal. And there are rumours that potentially Jurriën Timber, who could be cover, because we're not sure about how he's going to fit in this season with his long-term injury, could be moved and used in other areas for the versatility side of things, i.e. a right back, right centre-back, or even defensive midfield where he's played for Ajax. So this one's going to be interesting. Calafiori, some said yesterday, could be the long-term replacement for Gabriel, who is obviously a bit older than Saliba and Calafiori. I'm not too sure about that one. I don't want to be looking at breaking that partnership up, that's for sure. But maybe in the long term, in 2 or 3 years, when Saliba and Calafiori, if they're still at Arsenal, are both 25 years old, then of course you can look at that partnership when Gabriel hits towards his 30s. But for me, I think at the moment, Calafiori comes in as a left back at Arsenal. And I don't think it's a given either. I don't think he should just waltz into the team. I've not seen enough about this lad to think, right, you're the signing that's going to be walking straight in. However, when you're paying over 40 million for a defender, you're probably going to start them. And I think the option at the moment is to play him at left fullback, because for me, he is the inverted fullback that we kind of wanted Zinchenko to be, but just isn't good defensively. And I think that if you wanted to upgrade on him, that is definitely the player to do it with, from what I can hear and see. And everyone is talking about Everyone's very jealous of this one. Bayern Munich, we're looking at him. Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, other clubs abroad, all looking at him. Juventus, Italy clubs. So I said 95% of Italians stay in Italy. There's a reason he's come over to the Premier League. He clearly likes what Arsenal are doing and he's bought into the project. So let's see what this one means for Arsenal and for Calafiori. What does it mean also for the Arsenal outgoings? Because Tavares was linked with Ajax yesterday. Kieran Tierney is injured at the moment. And unfortunately, I just don't see where this moves him because of the long-term injury that he's potentially got. I don't know that anyone's going to want to sign him. So this one could be another loan deal potentially, or it could be a move that we look at that one day might see us go in for a player who I hope can revive his career because I do like Kieran Tierney. So watch this space on that one. And of course, watch Zinchenko. It might be that he moves now. Unless we're looking to play him more in midfield, I don't see him getting into the left-back role. You know, I think Tomiyasu's there. I think Timber's there. And now Calafiori, if he is to sign. And what does this also mean for Jakub Kiwior? Now, I think there's a place for Kiwior in the team. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a place for Kiwior in the squad. If he wants first-team football, though, he is going to have to move out. Now, Juventus are apparently looking at him now because of the Calafiori movement. And Kiwior is a player who I think still has potential at the young age of, in his 20s. I do think as well, though, that there's a couple of players that if we were to get rid of them, I wouldn't mind so much. Kiwior would potentially be one of them. But if we're going to be getting rid of Zinchenko, Tierney, Tavares and Kiwior, are we then going to be leaving ourselves potentially a little bit short as well? And I think Arsenal need to get the balance right with left backs and right backs here. Because what I mean by that is we've got right-sided players like Saliba, Tomiyasu, Ben White and Timber. Over on the left-hand side, though, we've got quite a few at the moment. And we need to try and balance that out. And it might be that we need to add another right-sided and look at getting rid of a couple of left-sided just to balance it out. I think you need 8. You need 4 centre-backs and 4 full-backs. And they need kind of 4 that are right-footed, 4 that are left-footed ideally. So that's what I think we're trying to balance up at the moment. So watch this space on this one when it comes to Arsenal and Calafiori. A lot of people very jealous, actually, of this signing. Now, I don't know why. I've not seen enough of him to feel that anyone would be jealous of it. But I think a lot of people like this signing. You know what people are like? They get excited by it. They start to hear good things and then they go, oh, I wish he was at my club. So let's see. Let's see what happens there. It's going to be very interesting indeed when it comes to Arsenal. I do think that Arsenal, it's just nice, isn't it, that Arsenal have now finally looked to do some business early on. So that is something that Arsenal fans will be excited about. Let's move on because this guy has some problems off the field. And at the moment, we really don't know what's going on. But a 26-year-old West Ham player, Brazilian international, Lucas Paqueta, has initiated contact with Flamengo, or should I say Flamingo, or Flamengo? Flamengo have initiated contact with him. Now, I don't know what that means. I have no idea if that means they're bringing him back to Brazil. It doesn't sound like he's going to be getting his dream move to Manchester City. I believe there's a release clause of around about 80 million for Lucas Paqueta from West Ham, which would be a really good signing for someone if he didn't have the potential of the gambling problems. Now, I think that is going to potentially lose him his dream move. We don't know what's happening, but a lot of clubs are then going, do you know what, we're backing off because we have no idea. We don't want a Newcastle situation with Sandro Tonali, that's for sure. But there's no doubting that this player is an absolute baller. And he's a player that I really like and a player that I would 100% welcome to Arsenal if he didn't have those problems. So I hope, in all seriousness, that he sorts himself out and things get sorted for him. And I don't want to speculate what may happen to Lucas Paqueta. But of course, at the moment, he has problems. But Brazil and the clubs over there are being linked with a move for him. So watch this space on Lucas Paqueta. We'll have to see what happens. With that one, we're going to talk Chelsea. We're going to talk Chelsea because there's 2 players that they're linked with. And they're 2 players that I would be very, very disappointed if they went there because they're good players. And I think Chelsea fans are absolutely hoping and pleading that this guy is one of the first signings. Now, I believe that Nico Williams has got his heart and dreams set on Barcelona and will stay in Spain. There's a £59 million release clause, or 59 million euros, should I say, release clause, which works for just over £50 million. And Spain, I think, is probably going to be where he will stay. Now, obviously, he's at Athletic Club Bilbao. I think Barcelona is his dream from what people are reading and what I'm hearing. But will they go for it? Now, they've said they will release the clause and it will be a bid that comes in. But Cucurella, who is with him at the moment in Spain, is trying to tempt him to come to Chelsea. Now, this would be a phenomenal piece of business if it was to happen for any Premier League club. The guy has lit the Euros up. He's looked phenomenal on the left-hand side. Can play as a right winger as well. I thought the way he took his goal the other night was just exceptional against Georgia. I was so impressed with his first touch, with his composure, and with his finishing. And he just lights the league up. He's just been fantastic. It's been a Euros that I have watched him very, very closely because of the rumours of him being on the move. And I've been very, very impressed. I have to say, he has been phenomenal. I've been so impressed. And I like everything about him, really. His tenacity. I think he's good work rate. I think he's got flair. He's an exciting talent. Moving forward, when you look at him play with the ball at his feet, he's really, really quick and technically gifted. So this would be a phenomenal signing and one that I think Arsenal should be all over. However, Chelsea are the ones at the moment that have showed the keenest interest when it comes to Premier League clubs, apparently. And as I mentioned, Cucurella is trying to have a little bit of a sneaky chat with him from what rumours are suggesting this morning and trying to bring him across to London. And I think that if this was to happen, it would be very bold of Nico Williams, particularly when he's got offers elsewhere that are, I would say, more attractive. If Arsenal were to come in, that's more attractive at the moment than Chelsea. That wouldn't have said that a few years ago. But of course, the way things have turned at the moment, Arsenal are looking more likely to win and compete at the top. And of course, Barcelona, let's be real, if they're going to come in, I know things are not great over there at the moment with Real Madrid winning everything, but let's be real, it's Barcelona. I personally feel like that is where he has set his destination on. And I believe that is where he's going to be playing his football next season. But that's just my opinion. Things could change and he could want a Premier League move. Just like this guy, Victor Osimhen. Now, Osimhen, I believe last summer was probably the most wanted striker in world football. He was absolutely killing it over in Serie A. Won Napoli the league, him and Kvaratskhelia being absolutely amazing. Or should I say, Kvaratskhelia. Because those two were absolute beasts, monsters, scoring goals for fun. Season just gone, however, didn't have the best African Cup of Nations, injury problems, didn't score as many goals, wasn't as pivotal, and didn't win the league with Napoli like the season before. Now, my problem with Osimhen is not the fact that I don't think he's a good player. It's the fact that there are options out there that might be less of a risk. Now, he is a lot of money. And Napoli today are suggesting that they are happy to speak to Chelsea about lowering the price for Victor Osimhen. Now, I don't feel like it is an absolute 100% link or heavy link with Chelsea, but apparently Napoli have told Chelsea they're willing to lower the 110.8 million asking price for the 25-year-old Victor Osimhen. Now, 110 million for Victor Osimhen, people might think is fine because he's a goal scorer and he's somebody who can take you to that next level. But this could be a really, really risky signing because of his injury problems. Now, I understand that any player can get injured, but when you want to take a punt on somebody who's got an injury record, you don't really want to be spending 110 million pounds on him. So I think that's why Napoli are now understanding that a gentleman's agreement of him signing a contract last season meant that they were probably going to get quite a lot of money for him. But I think because of his form and his injury problems, people are now not willing to want to spend that release clause, which is around 110 million. They're wanting to probably spend closer to 70. Now, I think if you can get him for that sort of money, I think it would be worth a punt. And I'll be excited if he comes to Arsenal. But Chelsea are the ones in the front runners at the moment for this guy. Arsenal are looking elsewhere at other targets from what we hear. But I still think are interested in Victor Osimhen and what movement there is there. I think Victor Gyökeres is the guy that Arsenal were looking at closely. However, things could change in football. So watch this space because I think Victor Osimhen's got a really good opportunity of making a move. So let's see what happens there. I think as well with Osimhen, you've got to be real about it and say that there's an opportunity for him to come and absolutely kill it in the Premier League. You know, if he can show any sort of form from Napoli of last season, I think someone's getting a very good centre forward, that's for sure. So watch this space and see what happens. Let's go on to this story, shall we? Because Liverpool are linked with this guy, but they are delaying. I don't know why, because Arne Slot knows him very, very well. But Brighton are back in the mix. And of course, we're talking about Mats Wiefer. Now, I don't know much about Mats Wiefer, but I know that he won the league with Feyenoord and is a defensive midfielder that everybody is starting to talk about. Now, apparently, because of the delay, Brighton are now taking advantage and have swooped in due to the delay that Liverpool and sealing a deal for the Feyenoord midfielder. He's 24 years old. Arne Slot gave the green light to reunite the Dutchman with their manager following their time together at the Dutch club. However, the Telegraph over in the Dutch world of sport And football is suggesting that Brighton are now interested in swooping in. And when Brighton are interested in a player, that always excites me. It always raises my eyebrows. My ears always prick up whenever Brighton are interested in a player because it means they've done their homework and they know. Now, a lot of people say, oh, but that was the old Brighton. They're all over at Chelsea now. Actually, they're not. When you look at some of the players that they have brought in and the scouting reports, it will be interesting. And there's quite a few people in the chat only a couple of days ago saying that Arsenal should be all over this because he's the perfect sort of signing that Arsenal needs. So I'm really interested to see what happens with this player because it's one that I'd not heard of much. And if I'm honest with you, I don't watch enough Dutch football. You know, we were linked with a right back at Feyenoord the other day that I didn't really know much about. Linked, of course, now with a player to other teams with Feyenoord players. I do like the striker. Jimenez, I think he is going to be a very good player. But listen, let's look at what happens over there. You're going to get links with Feyenoord players because of how they've played and what they've won. So that one will be very interesting indeed. Who remembers this player? Cedric Suarez, a player who was at Arsenal, of course, free agent now after his contract expired with Arsenal. 32-year-old Portuguese international. Olympiacos, Nice, Ajax and Rennes all interested in Cedric Suarez on a free transfer. Now, Cedric will come and do you a job. At 32 years old, he's not getting any younger, but he's certainly someone that we needed to move on. I couldn't believe that we'd still actually had him after a couple of loan spells, one being at Fulham. Let's see what happens because I do believe there is some movement in this one. I think he's going to attract some interest. Not so sure that he's going to attract any interest from Premier League clubs, though. I think his time is done in England. But certainly watch this space because I think Cedric could be on the move somewhere. And that one could be very, very interesting. I'll say this now. I thought Cedric was okay. I didn't think he was outstanding at Arsenal. I didn't think he was a player I looked at and thought, wow. But certainly a player that will be well respected. Came in and did a job, of course, at Arsenal. And was not really a player that I don't think anybody will look at and go, wow. You know what I mean? It wasn't a player I looked at and thought, oh, yeah, that's phenomenal. You know, that is a brilliant signing, brilliant piece of business getting him in. But I've got to say, you know, he did his job at Arsenal and wasn't able to get us across the line, but come in and did a pretty good job. So let's see where he goes. Let's talk about this next rumour, which is Sergio Gomez over at Manchester City. He apparently has agreed to leave the club. And they're close to agreement for the sale of the fullback to Real Sociedad. Now, if you remember, Kieran Tierney was over at Real Sociedad as a left back. And of course, that is the position that Sergio Gomez plays in. When Manchester City signed him, I thought it was a bit of a strange one because I didn't know much about him. He hasn't managed to get into the first team. And of course, it's very difficult to do that at Manchester City when you've got Nathan Ake and Gavardio ahead of you. But I do think the left back scenario with Man City is something that I've always found quite interesting. There's never been a world-class left back at Manchester City, whether it's Kolarov, whether it's Gal Clichy, whether it's Nathan Ake, whether it's Zinchenko, whether it's now Gavardio. And of course, Sergio Gomez is one of those. Now, the deal is likely to include a sell-on clause and a buyback arrangement because they clearly do see some form of potential in Sergio Gomez, but he's not a player that I've ever looked at and thought, wow. So that one's going to be interesting to see what happens. So watch this space on Sergio Gomez. Watch this space. The last player is a player I think Arsenal should look at doing some business with. He's linked with Wolves. He is a Premier League experienced player. He is still the Danish number one, and it is, of course, Kasper Schmeichel. Now, at the moment, Kasper's situation is, I think he's 36 years old, and he's the perfect experienced goalkeeper to come in for the Premier League as a number two at Arsenal. Now, Wolves are linked with him. I know he had some time over in France. I, for one, personally, would love to see him at Arsenal as a backup goalkeeper if we are to get rid of Aaron Ramsdale. Because I think it's the only kind of option that we've got. I know I've spoken before about Wojciech Szczesny. I've spoken before about David De Gea. I think wages would be an issue for De Gea. I think Szczesny probably has his heart set elsewhere. And I think Kasper Schmeichel would come in and be a fantastic number two. If David Raya was to get an injury, I'd be more happy with Kasper Schmeichel coming in than I would Jason Steele or Justin Bilo that I know nothing about. So let's be real. This would be a really good, a very interesting signing. And I think this one would make sense. However, I don't see it happening. And I'll say this, and I said it yesterday with Lee Judges. I don't want Ramsdale leaving unless anybody comes in and offers 30 million plus. Because anybody that's coming in and expecting to get Aaron Ramsdale for 10, 15 or even 20 million surely needs to be looking elsewhere, because I am not selling, no way, Aaron Ramsdale for anything less. Like, let's be real, I'm not. At £25 million, we signed him from Sheffield United, who got relegated. For 2 seasons now, he's had a title challenge with Arsenal. That means his price tag should be going up, not down. Now, I understand that sometimes when you sit on the bench, things can sometimes take your price tag down, but I'm not expecting anything less than £30 million for Aaron Ramsdale. And if nobody wants to pay that, then I'm not going to be selling him. And I don't want Arsenal to be selling him. I would rather line up with David Raya and Ramsdale next season. If Ramsdale goes for 30 million, I can accept that. Go and have a good career, and I hope you do. And we bring in somebody like this guy. I think Kasper Schmeichel would be good. And I know Mark's saying that, even at 36, I don't think Kasper Schmeichel will want to be second choice. At 36, I don't think you can really have much of a choice. Now, I understand that's not old with the goalkeepers, but I do think that if you was to tempt him at Arsenal to come and be a part of a title-winning side or Champions League winning side, which is what we should be aiming for, yeah, come and do that. And I think he'd say yes to that. Or does he want to go and try and fight Jose Sarr for a first-team position at Wolves? I don't know. I don't think he'll be guaranteed first-team football wherever he goes unless he goes down a level. I think if you want to play at the highest level until you get to the retirement age, I think this would be a fantastic piece of business for Arsenal. And it's one that I've always thought in the back of my mind about. And I saw it today linked and I thought, wow, Kasper Schmeichel to Wolves. Why not Kasper Schmeichel to Arsenal? Why not? That's a really good question, because I do believe that would be a fantastic experience, number 2. I think when you get an injury to David Raya and Kasper Schmeichel's coming in, you're not thinking, oh my God, this kid's not kicked a football. He's only 23. He's not got any Premier League experience. That's what we had with Runnison. He was terrible by. Whoever scouted him, by the way, I hope he's been sacked from Arsenal, because it is absolutely shocking. So I've got to say this. I think it's a real good piece of business for whoever does that in the Premier League. I think Kasper Schmeichel is a very well respected, with a good reputation, goalkeeper who over the years of the past, let's be real, nearly 2 decades now, has been really consistent. Whether it's been where he started off, where he's at Manchester City, winning the league with Leicester, and then coming after that and thinking, not really been replaced, if I'm honest. I mean, they really shouldn't have left Leicester, if I'm honest, because it hasn't really worked out for him. And I know that Leicester really didn't want to get rid of him. He was their captain, I believe, at the time as well, after Wes Morgan. So I think this would be a really good bit of business, man. I really do. So watch this space on Kasper Schmeichel. Let's see what happens. And that brings us to a close for our transfer news for this morning. Please make sure you do me a favor if you haven't done so already and like the video. We've got nearly 350 of you watching still. There is only 89 likes. People, come on. Please. I don't like to beg for likes, but please make sure you do hit the like button. That should be easily at 100 by now for the time that we've been on. So please make sure that you hit the like button. Only 94 likes now. So please make sure we get that way up to 150 towards the end of the show, which is coming to a close now. Now, I'm going to be back tonight at 7 p.m. Set your reminders. I've got an absolutely lit panel to be talking all things football. We're going to touch on England, but we are going to be talking about the news that's going to break today, later on today. And of course, we're going to be talking a little bit about Ederson with Martin, who's going to come on from Manchester City. It's always fire when he comes on, because everybody seems to want to give him a little bit of controversy about Man City and 115. That's all they seem to be screaming at him. We're going to have a couple of others on with us as well, which you'll definitely recognise, but I'll keep that as a surprise. So make sure you're with us at 7 p.m. tonight. We will see you next time. Take it easy. And as always, up the Arsenal. Take care and have a great rest of your day.